Hello, legends and super legends. Welcome to Veloharmony Live. We're doing a live session today. The focus is staying focused and motivated. And what got me to schedule this was funny. The weather in our area has gotten much colder than normal. There was a polar front, an Arctic front that came down the middle of the country. And so it's coming all the way to the south. And right now we're about probably 35 Fahrenheit, which is probably like 2 Celsius or something like that. So it's colder than normal. Tomorrow, the high will be 6 Celsius for the high. So 6 or 7 Celsius, so 45 Fahrenheit. So it's going to start out about 2 Celsius and go to 6. That's not much of a range. And on Wednesday, the GroupMe app that Team RR uses, they are some members already jumped on it to talk themselves and other less focused riders out of riding, because that's the only way I can call it. Basically, to go on a Wednesday and say, "Oh, it looks like it's going to be really cold." I'm paraphrasing. Looks like it's going to be really cold on the weekend. Whereas I come from the standpoint of, yeah, it's going to be cold. Okay, what do I need to break out to make sure I'm ready to ride? They're basically talking themselves out of riding. The funny thing about it is that you don't want to ride, don't ride. It's not a job. You're not a pro rider. Nobody's paying you to ride. You don't need to come on the ride board and tell people you're not riding. Nobody cares. When you show up to ride, we'll know you're riding. That's the stuff that just tickles me. So this is about you not paying attention to other people and focusing on yourself and making sure that you have your own reason. I talk about it all the time for getting out the door. So if you want to be the best at anything, you have to focus. You can't pay attention to what other people are doing. You have to pay attention to what you're doing. That's more important. Don't focus on others, focus on yourself. It does not matter what someone else is doing. What matters is what you do. Don't get turned around. You saw last week's ride. They deviated from the course. We had a focus. We continued going. That's the key. Because for me, my motto is the bicycle has one saddle on it. You don't need a group to ride. You're a group of one. I've said that many times on this channel. So if you have no focus, you can be easily swayed in any endeavor. So you need to make sure that you have your goal, and you need to make sure you know what it takes to accomplish your goal. Then you cannot be easily swayed, if at all. My brother is here. Hey, Paul. Cycle Jockey, welcome back. Robert Tangler, good to see you all. So yeah, so for us, I mean, we do 6 hours at a minimum on Saturday's rides. The way this week has gone for me, I didn't ride much, so this will be my longest ride, and most of the time it usually is anyway. So yeah, it's going to be cold, but if you invest in the proper gear, the roads are going to be clear. There's no ice, so it's not going to be unsafe. Yeah, it'll be colder than normal, but you wear the proper gear and you'll be able to ride. That's the key. So there are a lot of people who don't invest in the proper gear, so they have, you know, insufficient stuff to keep them comfortable in lower temperatures. So they limit themselves. We invest in rain gear, cold weather gear, and even in the summer, we invest in the proper lightweight fabrics to make sure we ride in comfort. Because you don't only have problems when it's cold, you have problems when it's hot. If you wear a heavy jersey in hot weather, you will be very uncomfortable. You can have heat stroke. So it matters. All times of the year, you need to invest in the right gear for that time of the year. And then you don't have to worry about it. So, oh, John Bailey's here. Welcome. So, yeah, so keep that in mind. So, motivation comes from having a goal, having a reason to achieve that goal. And that gets you out of the gate, notwithstanding everything else. So because you have that focus, you don't worry about it. It does not matter to me whether there's a group ride, no group ride. We're heading out. We're going. You know, you all have seen that I've done solo rides where I filmed them and so forth and so on. I've ridden centuries by myself when Paul was not available. He's done the same. So, it's so much fun getting out there. We look forward to it. So we don't depend on, we're only going to go if the group is going. So if the group changes the route, we continue because we already have a focus. We have a goal that we're trying to accomplish. We don't let them decide for us how far we go or when we go. So I don't expect many riders to be riding this weekend. And as usual, I will be smiling as I'm getting ready. There is not much, there was no rain in the forecast on Saturday, but if there were, we would just take our rain jacket. That's the stuff I watch, because when it's cold and it's going to be wet, you've got to make sure you stay dry. That combination is not good for the body. So that's very important. But it's just supposed to be overcast, cloudy, and it gets colder into next week. I believe by Tuesday morning it's going to be 10 Fahrenheit. I mean, that's below 0 Celsius, minus. So yeah, we don't get that very often. So it's very unusual for our area. And as a result, some of the schools are going to be closed just to keep people off the roads. We have issues down here where the roads ice over. They call it black ice. You can't really see, and you can't stop in ice if you're at speed. And we've had in the northern part of Texas, near the Dallas-Fort Worth area, specifically Fort Worth, there were a bunch of pileups yesterday because they had ice on the roadways, the overpasses. So it can be an issue, But we don't have any precipitation right now. It rained yesterday, but today it was relatively dry, and then tomorrow is supposed to be dry. We're supposed to get a 70% chance of snow, I believe, on Tuesday. We don't get it that often, so that's very unusual. But it's going to be really colder than we normally experience. I can't remember it ever getting to 10. Usually it will be like 20 Fahrenheit, but it's going to be 10 for a low Tuesday morning. That's brutally cold. So that kind of temperature, yeah. Even if you put on all kinds of stuff, you got to make sure you cover your face, because that air hitting your skin is uncomfortable. So there's balaclava weather tomorrow. So I may wear my balaclava because it's going to be cold the entire day, so it's kind of, you basically, I just like getting out, so it'd be kind of nice to get out and just see how we fare in that weather. So we're not going to have any snow during our ride. It's just going to be overcast, but the wind will be coming from the north. So when it says 35 Fahrenheit, which is about probably 3 or 2 Celsius, it's going to probably feel like 0 Fahrenheit. So I feel like -1 C or something like that, because that wind will be blowing. So we have to dress for basically freezing weather, because that's how it's going to feel, especially when we go north. It's going to be really, cool. So we don't expect to see a lot of riders. And we've ridden where there was a rainy ride we did. It wasn't very cold, but because of the rain, there weren't a whole lot of riders. And you can tell when the days come where there won't be a whole lot of people riding. We look forward to it. So it should be interesting. So we'll get some clips as usual of the two of us riding, because I don't think anybody else will be out there. Because it's going to be, let's see, 45 is like 7 Celsius. That will be our high forecasted for the day. So that's why I said they started on Wednesday talking to each other out of riding. I'm like, what's the point? Nobody really cares what you're doing. If you're not going to ride, you don't need to broadcast it. Just don't ride. It's not a job, When you show up for the ride, we know you're there. When you're not there, we know you're not there. So, we get, John says snow in Texas. Yeah, we get snow here maybe every 3 to 5 years, maybe. So yeah, it is rare. But what occurred was supposedly there's a polar front that is usually blocked from coming this far south. and it's just free flowing. So it's an unusual occurrence. The entire U.S. is being affected by it. So, Oklahoma, all the places near the Panhandle, all of that, they're getting snow. There's going to be ice. Then after it comes here, it's going to move to the northeastern U.S. So they're going to get hit. So all like places like Green Bay, International Falls, all those places, they have obscene below zero temperatures. They're having temperatures they usually have in Alaska. That's what's happening. So this is affecting the entire country in the middle. Unless if you're on the southwestern side, you probably won't be affected that much because it's coming down the middle of the country and then it's going to move east. They talked about it about a week before it got here. They knew this polar front was coming. So it wasn't a surprise. Imperceptible says, I definitely need motivation as my fingers froze yesterday and I wasn't bold enough to go out riding today. Why did your fingers freeze? Did you not have enough on your hands? You probably need to layer your gloves or buy gloves for heavier temperatures, ASOS makes some, Jordana, all of them. I don't know what kind of equipment you have. Your hands should not be frozen. They have gloves that you can wear below zero. I mean, people ski below zero. So I use that as an example. You have to have the right equipment. Otherwise, you're better off just staying on your trainer. You don't want to mess with the cold. And some people are more susceptible to the cold. There are some people that need more stuff to stay warm. So you're going to have to invest in the higher quality stuff. So your gloves are fitted. Well, you need gloves that will allow you to use liners. Like tomorrow, I'm going to be wearing two. I always line my gloves because it traps. What happens especially I use wool as the liner, and it will trap the heat. And then the second glove should block the wind. Because it's not the thickness of the gloves that really keep your hands warm. It's keeping that wind chill off when you're moving on the bicycle. So you need to invest in some other gloves. You have to focus on the weakness in your kit, meaning that if your hands are a weakness, then you got to invest in gloves that will allow you to use liners. Or if your feet are a weakness, then you need to invest in better overshoes. That's the key. You've got to look at the weakness in your kit. So your extremities are important because they don't do a lot of work. They don't have a lot of tissue. And so you want to make sure they're nice and warm because then you will be comfortable out there. So we don't play. We try different things. I mean, Paul was here earlier in the week and we were looking at different things. I tried on the rougher gloves with my liners, but they were fine and warm, but I didn't have the dexterity that I like to have. So I'm going to be wearing them with a different pair of gloves. We have a pair of gloves that are rain-proof, made by a company called Showers Pass. And I'm going to try that as an outer layer because it has a membrane that blocks the wind. So you got to make sure you've got the right kind of glove. They don't have to be very bulky to keep you warm. But layering them makes a difference. My feet I never have a problem with because I have shoes that they're not the standard summer shoes that everybody has. They're very, very, very contained. And then I wear shoe covers that really block the wind. That's the key. It's that wind chill that gets us on the bike. And if you were skiing, it will be the same thing. Because the skiers, they get up to speed. The wind chill makes the temperature go lower. He said he's been online looking the whole day for a proper winter glove, but they're all sold out. Go to Rafa.cc, get their deep winter gloves, and get their merino liners. That will solve your problem. You're going to have to spend because they're not inexpensive. You have to pay for the technology they put in there. The cheap stuff will cause your fingers to get cold. So you got to decide how much you want to spend on your hands. Melanie in Asia, welcome. I've tried all kinds of gloves, so I just stay with the big boys. ASOS, Rafa, I don't have any problems with them. The rest of the guys, yeah, they're contenders, but you're stabbing in the dark, and maybe it might work, maybe it won't. So I know what works, I stay with that. So we've got the deep winter gloves from several seasons ago. That's an option. And what I will do is try it on in the morning, go outside, see how it feels, and decide if I do that one versus the Showers Pass. So the Showers Pass are cool. Also, there is a Pro Logo pair of gloves that I have that you can wear with liners. Makes a big difference. So you need some good wool liners. You can get something from Defeat, or even there's a brand that sponsors Steven Seagal's team. I think I have them on my website on the recommended cycling products. I keep forgetting the name of the brand that sponsors Steven Seagal's team. They make some nice liners. Yeah, Ossos makes some good stuff. Imperceptible. That there was an Ossos glove that even Chris Horner was talking about on a video I watched, that he said was so warm that he didn't wear it except in extreme cold. So they make them, but yeah, the Ossos stuff costs a pretty penny. So yeah, Sportful. Yeah, thanks, Paul. Sportful makes a great liner. Paul has a pair of Sportful liners that you can also wear by themselves if you choose to, but because they're made out of wool, very breathable, they keep your hands warm. So lining your gloves is important. If you have a pair of gloves you can't line, then there's something wrong. Most of the gloves we have, we can line them. Last week's video, the blue gloves I was wearing was lined. I was wearing a Defeat wool gloves with the little feet on there. Defeat, Defeet is a brand. I wore their gloves, which is a standalone, and I just slipped them in those blue gloves, and I was comfortable. So you should be able to, if you're sizing your gloves correctly, you should be able to measure your knuckles. So I don't know if the gloves are very fitted, then yeah, it might feel very uncomfortable if you line them. But you need something that's cut a little roomier. But I can line all my gloves. I haven't had any problems lining them. You need something that blocks the wind. That's what you need. Because it's not just keeping your hand warm, it's keeping the wind chill off of you. Yeah, so he said Asos sold out. If Asos is more expensive, let me see if I can find their stuff. I found that the Asos stuff costs a lot more than Rafa. So if your budget is 95, then you're not going to be getting the Rafa gloves, because the Rafa gloves cost more. So I'm not sure how you came up with your budget, but I don't know who's making a deep winter glove for 95 that will keep your hands warm. So you might want to relocate your thinking to say, I need my hands warm, and so I need to spend what it takes to get my hands warm. Because you're not going to be buying these gloves all the time. So you might as well buy the best stuff and you're done for several seasons. Because the gloves that I have, they're years old and they still work fine. So that's the way you have to look at it. Get what works. Sometimes you got to change your budget. That's just life, That's the way it works. Let's see here. Robert Tengler says cyclists don't have to deal with trees, in reference to me talking about people that ski. Yeah, skiers run into trees. They have a lot of accidents. A lot of people have had serious and fatal accidents skiing at speed, hitting a tree. So yeah. You're right about that, Robert. He said I picked cycling. Yeah. I've skied before. I went to a place in Colorado on a business trip many, many years ago. And some of you from the area probably would know it's called Keystone, a place called Arapahoe Basin. And the reason I remember it, I always thought the name was cool. I think it's a Native American name. And there was a T-shirt where the guy is in his, what you call it, your birthday suit, and he's got a scarf, and it said "Dare to Ski Bear, Arapahoe Basin." And I've always remembered that place because of that T-shirt. But I went there for a business conference, and we stayed over the weekend and skied. And I found that I got hungrier skiing than I ever do cycling. I don't know why. And I got more exposure to the sun, because you're way up there, and then that sun is beating on you, and get with the snow. You definitely need the right glasses, all of that. I mean, I had the right stuff. But I found that I was more worn out from skiing than cycling. So it wasn't something I gravitated to, but it was good. It was a good experience to experience that. And, there were little kids zipping around us, we were just learning. but the kids that live there, little kids, just fast, you know. So it was a good experience, but yeah, they do have their issues and their incidents and so forth. Mm. Imperceptible is asking about the Rafa Deep Winter Gloves. Yeah, the Rafa Deep Winter Gloves, you're not going to have the highest dexterity. They're very warm. They will be fine. You can shift and so forth, but you're not going to be working with fiddly things with those gloves on. But it's because of what they put in there for your warmth. And that's my reason for being on the fence for tomorrow's get up, whether I'm going to use them or something else. They work fine as far as shifting your gears and braking and all the stuff you need for cycling. They're going to be fine. But what we found is when we're fiddling with the camera and trying to mess with little buttons and little things on the camera, sometimes it's a challenge with the deep winter gloves. But I'd much rather have the deep winter gloves on and have comfortable hands and pull them off when I want to do something with the camera and put them back on, you know. So that's my trade-off. If we didn't have the option of the showers pass that we have, which blocks the wind, I may not even have considered anything else, because the deep winter gloves do work with liners. Yeah, you can go into different ranges. I think it's only as good as the liners. So you have to try different things with the gloves you have. But if you have a pair of gloves where you can't wear with liners, then yes, you're very limited. Because most cyclists line their gloves as it gets colder, just like you do layers on your body. You know, the gloves should be designed to where you have the room to slip on a liner that fits you well and get your hands in there. It's a little snug, but it's not uncomfortably snug. So I'm able to wear that. There are, you're not going to be picking up coins with the Rafa gloves. Let's put it that way. You know, many of those gloves you won't be anyway. But they're fine for cycling. You're not going to have trouble shifting, braking, and feeling your brake hoods and so forth. They will work because they're designed for cycling. I like that the cuff comes all the way up on the deep winter gloves, so you really can get your sleeve in there. And that's another place that will make a difference. You got to make sure it's secure up here so you don't get any air in there. Makes a big difference. So that's the quality you're looking for. You know, you're looking at all the right gloves. There's a reason they're sold out. This is the worst time to be buying winter stuff. So you're going to have to pay retail. If you had gotten them when they were on sale, and they were giving them away a season ago. That's the thing. You're getting them when everybody wants one. So they have no reason to put them on sale. And then you're finding that they're not even available. Let's see. Stick on a tree. Craft gloves are fantastic for winter gloves. The Scandinavians know a thing or two about winter riding. Craft gloves. Craft is a brand. Yeah, it's a cycling brand as well. Let me see what their gloves look like. So Imperceptible, I don't know if you have access to Craft. A lot of these guys have like online stores. A lot of this really you're trying, really, because it's going to vary. There's been some legends on here that said no matter what they tried, the hands were still cold. Everybody's different. So you're going to have to keep searching till you find the combination that works for you. There's something called Craft Siberian 2.0 glove that I see on here. I don't know how many models they have. Then they have a Craft Hybrid. They have a mitten and a glove. So yeah, so it's similar to what the Pro Logo has, that little cover that you can use, the lobster claw. So there are different kinds of gloves. You're just going to have to look at how cold, what range they design it for, because the manufacturer will tell you. Because that's why Rafa calls that one deep winter gloves, because they've got other gloves for like 10°C or so, and then they got gloves for freezing temperatures. So you can't let equipment keep you down. That's what I mean when I say stay focused, because if you're going to ride in all the time, you have to get the equipment early so that you already have them and you be ready. If it's going to rain, you don't want to start looking for rain gear when it starts raining, because everybody's getting it. So you've got to start stocking now to ride in all temperatures. I mean, right now, a lot of the vendors will be giving away their summer jerseys, like their flyweight stuff. That's when we try to grab them, when they cost less. You don't wait till summer to buy stuff for summer. It'll be too hot because everybody's buying it and they know you need it. So, Stick on the Tree says he's always purchases summer gloves in June, 50% off or more. Exactly. It may seem odd, but that's when you get just really, really obscenely low prices. That's the way to go. It's kind of like, the women do a lot of shopping where what I'm talking about to get things on sale or whatever, but a lot of guys will not buy a pair of shoes until the one they have gets a hole in them on the job or that day going to work. So then what do? They just run to the store. Or you're stuck with what they have. So you don't get a chance to really shop. So you've got to start thinking ahead and checking your things and seeing what am I low on, what's long in the tooth, and kind of put a reminder on your phone or whatever for those little things. Make a little list so you get them before you need them. But it doesn't matter. Right now, you're just going to have to shop and see who has very warm gloves for you right now. But yeah, that's why they're sold out. Everybody's getting them because the whole part of this world is cold. And this front that came, because Europe is also getting a lot of cold weather also. So I don't know if it's related to this Arctic front that came, this polar front we're talking about here in the US. But this whole part of the world is cold right now. So everyone's getting cold weather stuff right now. Hey, Jeffrey. Jeffrey is at work. Yeah, Jeffrey, glad you could pop in. Let's see here. Stick on the Tree says, I've also seen some battery heated gloves. Recently, I've been using Poji's, keeps hands warm. Yeah, some people may need stuff like that, but for me, I don't need anything. I'm sure they've got some gloves that may be more thermal than others and so forth. So you're going to have to find out. I mean, if we had a lot of below zero weather, yeah, we'd probably start looking at other things because the weather we're having tomorrow, even though it is, say, 6C, 6 or 7C would be the high, and we're starting probably at 2 Celsius. It's going to feel right at freezing in the morning. So you really have to have something that will keep your hands warm at that time. I hate to be cold for any long period of time on a bike. It just kind of ruins the experience. So we're going to have to, and we've got the equipment to keep us warm. So we got to play with stuff. Sometimes you don't get it right, even though you have the stuff. Like if I chose the wrong pair of gloves, yeah, then you'd be uncomfortable out there. And so you've got to invest in testing it out. So I'm going to come outside for a few times and make sure before I pick my final combination. But I will be wearing layers on my hands, So I get gloves that can accommodate liners. And a lot of the top vendors, they design their gloves to be able to allow you to wear liners. Some of them have their own liners that they sell that works with their gloves, but you don't always have to use their liners. So Jeffrey says he has the Craft Siberia 2.0. He's tested them down to 30. They run very small, according to him. Yeah, that's what they're showing on here. So Simonson 77, greetings from BC. Welcome. I guess that's British Columbia. It was minus 40. Yeah, that's what they're having, like I think in International Falls and with this front that's coming in. That's Alaska weather there. That's pretty serious. He said, on your ride with Paul the other day, you referred to looking where you want to go. When skiing in the trees, look to the spaces between, not at the trees. Yeah. Because where you look is where you steer. Yeah, but every sport has this thing, and the ski resorts and stuff don't like to focus on that. But safety is an issue in anything you do, because besides avalanches and other things, people do get injured in many different ways. I'm sure it's a fun sport for those who are into it. It was a nice experience for me to try it, at least kind of, the experience was interesting. But it's just not my cup of tea. When I left the slopes, we went straight to the restaurant, just left hungry. You use a lot of energy skiing. So that's a good way to stay in shape. Because you're using your whole body when you think about it. It's a great workout. You're working hard, So it's kind of, but yeah, you kind of have to just keep shopping imperceptible, just because you don't want to be limited because your hands are cold. And your hands being cold makes you miserable. Same thing with your feet being cold. And some people will put aluminum foil around their toes or whatever. Some people are more susceptible to that. I don't have a problem with my feet being very cold. I put on some shoe covers and I'm good. But we don't usually ride below zero often here. And we're not going to be riding below zero. It might be right at freezing in terms of feel, but the temperature officially will be about 35 Fahrenheit. So maybe, 2 or 3 Celsius. And then, we get out there, but it won't warm up much. So we have to dress the way we're going to be. We're not going to be shedding, so we've got to make sure we're warm when we're out the door, because we're going to be out there. To be out there for multiple hours, you want to be comfortable. And that's the plan. I want to get out there and then have to. So, I'm too cold, I'm too miserable. No, we want to get out and enjoy the cold weather. So our faces will definitely be covered part of the ride, if not all. Maybe once it gets to about 7 Celsius, we'll probably be okay. Because 7 Celsius was the temperature, about 6 or 7 was when we started last Saturday. That was the temperature at the start of the ride. So that's going to be our high. So we know that once it gets above, say, 7C, unless it's 6, 7, we'll be fine. Because 40 Fahrenheit, that's pretty nice if it feels like that. But it depends on where we're going, it will feel colder. Maybe when we're coming back hours later. But the whole day is going to be cold. So we're just going to go ahead and just bring out the winter gear. I'm wearing the protein tights because they're very thick. I'm not going to wear the POG. What do they call that? My Castelli. Let's see here. I forgot the name. The Castelli seems to work best closer to 10C. Eldred says she's very sensitive to the cold, and I live near water, which makes it feel, the humidity will always make it feel colder. The Sopaso, that's a name I couldn't remember. My Castelli Sopaso bibs don't seem to work for me in very cold temperatures. They seem to work best if it's above 7 Celsius. So I'm not wearing them tomorrow. I'm going to break out the protein bib tights. He says -1 right now. Yeah, it's cold. I mean, cold is cold. You just got to find out, I don't really worry so much about here because your core, you can warm up. We eat more. In the cold, you're going to eat more. So you got to carry more food. That's another thing. Eating gives you the energy you need, to keep going in the cold. You want to eat more. You're not going to drink as much. You don't need water. What you need is an energy drink, electrolyte, or something like that. So you're not stopping all the time for breaks because your body does not use that much. But you want to make sure you have enough food because you will be using energy to keep your body warm, more so than on a nicer day or warmer day, So we look forward to days that are coming like that because people that talk themselves out of riding tells me that they don't have the focus, they don't have the motivation, they don't have the goals. That means they don't have a goal. You can easily be swayed if you have no goal for anything you do in life. So if you're trying to accomplish something, you won't let something easily dissuade you from it. So I don't, we read the messages and we kind of laugh about it because I don't see the point in on a Wednesday posting on a board for Saturday's group ride that, it's going to be cold. Well, everybody's got access to weather nowadays. I mean, so what's your point? It's going to be cold. Then follow up by saying, I'm not going to be there. And then they made a joke about, there's a frostbite team. I don't know who the frostbite team is. I guess whoever goes will be part of the frostbite team. Well, you're only going to get frostbite if you're not wearing the right equipment. So I didn't get that part. So they just make up stuff and reasons to not ride. And I'm thinking, why do you need to do that? Just don't ride. Who cares? You don't need you don't need to give anybody a reason to not ride. When we get to the ride and you're not there, if we roll past Crust Pizza and you're not there, we know you guys are not riding. And when we don't see a post, like we have not seen a post for a ride today, so we're not going to even go to Crust Pizza. We're just going to head out. There's no point. Because they're not even saying that they're riding. Since Wednesdays, guys tried to convince everybody that it's going to be so miserable on Saturday. Then he started talking about how miserable Tuesday or Monday would be, and I was thinking, that's after the weekend, so why are you even talking about that? That's what gave me the idea. I said, let me just make a little live session about focus and motivation, because I just showed a lot of folks. Only people who are not focused are going to listen to that. I don't need anybody to talk me into doing anything or not doing something that I want to do. I do it of my own volition. I don't need to be convinced one way or the other. I love riding my bike. So I get the right equipment and I go. Safety being the number one. If it's lightning or it's icy on the roads, yeah, I'm not going. I can just get on the trainer and do something, because there's no point in risking your health, because you're not going to be able to ride if you injure yourself. That's the only thing that would deter me. But the roads are going to be fine. It's going to be clear. There's no moisture or anything, because when it's 35 and it might rain or something like that, it's cold enough to have ice in certain areas, especially on the overpasses. That's what happened in Fort Worth. We have a lot of overpasses, because anything that has air passing under it can freeze over quicker. The roads that are on the ground, because the ground stores more heat, they're harder to freeze. And that's the problem we had in Fort Worth yesterday. There's always those overpasses, and they're moving at highway speed, 65 miles an hour, about 100K or something like that, and they couldn't stop. And you just see them running into, even after cars were stopped, other cars and trucks were running into the back of them. And unfortunately, 5 people lost their lives in that pileup. So I think it's like 100 cars or something. There's a large number of cars. I don't understand why the roadway wasn't shut down, because usually they would shut it down. So maybe they just didn't know, I guess, that it was that bad. So Colin says, the only thing that keeps me off the roads is ice. I don't even drive my car in ice. If it's dry, I will put on my winter kit and get out there. Cold rides are refreshing. You got that right. I do not drive my cars in ice. I've been in my car and dealt with ice. There's not a whole lot of that you can do if you're driving and you come across ice. You really just have to try to steer as best as you can, because don't brake, because any braking motion will create more of a spin of the vehicle, and there's not much you can do with it. So it's not fun to drive in ice. You have no control. So there's no way I will be on my bike in ice. I wouldn't even drive a car in ice. That's just like being on a skating rink in a car. If you know what I mean. If you've ever been there, it's not, you have no control. You just go till you hit something and stop. And that's what people deal with around here. So a lot of times when there's ice, they will shut down the roads, or they will put in our area they use the little rocks, small pebbles, because it stops the ice from staying together. It causes it to turn to liquid. So they'll have that all on the roads. And the thing with us, for us on bikes, days after, you got all that crap to deal with, because the sweepers are not very quick. So all that crap they put, all the gravel they put out there, they're there on the edge of the roads to keep the thing down. They don't use salt in our area very often, if at all, down here. And then our drivers down here don't adjust their driving. They don't slow down. So even if you're going slow, you slide on ice. So what we do is we just don't go out, and they'll announce and tell you that's a good idea to not go out. It's just best. Just whatever you're going to do it before and then wait, because it's just, it's not worth the risk. Let's see here. So Imperceptible says, that's why he's riding tomorrow, because Colin said that no matter what, it's only ice that keeps me off the road. He said, that's why I'm riding tomorrow morning using my designer leather glove with cashmere lining. I tried to see if I can shift gears with it. This evening it was okay. What you could try, Imperceptible, is maybe, I'm just stabbing in the dark. Maybe if you have, I don't know if you want to use your designer gloves. If you have like nitrile, because you want something that will keep the air from going through. Maybe put on some nitrile gloves and wear your cycling gloves if it will let your hands get in there. That might help. I'm not sure, because you need something to just keep that wind chill down. It sounds like you're getting wind chill on the glove that won't let you do a liner. But if you think the designer gloves will work, give it a shot until you can get proper cycling gloves. Sinuel just asked, do you not put salt on the roads? No, they don't use salt down here, and I'm not sure why. I think it's because we don't have the frequency of icy roads that they do in other parts of the country. So they just use gravel, they use sand and other things like that. Yeah, that's fine. They just use that. He said I've answered the question. Yeah, that's why. Because we might have one icy day the whole year. So they're not going to invest in salt. But up north, like Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, all those places, that's what they use. They use salt. And so if you ride in those areas, once the roads are clear, you got to make sure you clean your bike to get the salt off your machine, So yeah, we don't want to have that down. It's not just Texas. I'm sure other southern states, we just don't get that level of cold weather. What's happening this week is unusual, and it's not going to last because by next Thursday, I believe, we'll be in like 18 Celsius. It's 60s by next Thursday, and then Saturday it will be like 7C to 18C, which is our normal range. So yeah, this is not going to last. It's going to go back. So yeah, so we just make do and get through it. And people are told to stay off. A lot of businesses will tell the employees not to come in. Like I said, the schools are going to be closed on Tuesday because we're expecting snow and ice, on the road. So whenever it gets challenging, you don't want to have too many people on the roads. Not everybody's going to stay off the road, but it's kind of risky if there's ice. I don't bother because you can't beat the ice. You hit a patch of ice, you're going until you hit something. Yeah, he says, Sinua says salt is a killer for your bicycle. Yeah, salt is a killer for your car too. A lot of times, especially up north, a lot of the people that drive on the salt, they make sure they get the undercarriage of the car cleaned at the car wash. You want to do that. You don't want to leave that salt on there. You can kind of holds everything out. You want to make sure. Well, if you clean that, it's fine. It has to stay there for a long time with dirt and stuff and slush to really affect it. You just have to clean it frequently and get that off your machine, and you'll be okay. But salt will eat through stuff. Like those of you who ever live by the ocean, salt will rust a lot of stuff. So a lot of people that live by the ocean, they use different materials, like maybe aluminum for the window pane, the edge, the frame of the windows. They use aluminum because if you use metal, the salt will just chew through it. So don't let things deter you easily. That's the focus here, is that you have a plan, whatever your reason. If you're riding just to lose weight, or you're riding to stay in shape for an event, or you're riding just because you love your bike, only focus on things that would impact your safety as a deterrence to riding. If the roads are safe, get the right gear and go out there, because what ends up happening is you have the roads all to yourself, because everyone else are not going to be out there when it's very cold or even when it's raining. That's when we really enjoy the roads, because it's just clear. And that's the way it's going to be tomorrow. People don't like going out in the cold down here. We're not used to the cold down south. So people don't like it. They don't go out much. Everybody will maybe order in or shop the day before because they know it's coming, and people just stay in. So the roads are going to be clearer than they usually are. As a result, we have the best workouts when it's cold. So we're going to be filming tomorrow to show you just how vacant these roads are. That's going to be our goal, just to show you that. That's all the more reason why we brave the cold, because we have a better experience than when it's really congested. Gallo Chipping is here. Hello, welcome. We're going to be wrapping up in a bit. So we're talking about not being deterred by the weather, and we're excited about going out, even though it's going to be cold, because that's when you have the road to yourself. You're not going to have to be dealing with too many other road users. Even the dogs don't want to be out. A lot of the dogs that chase us and stuff, they're not going to be out. So it's going to be different. JBOB says, I was the only person on the road up here in New Jersey at the start of these blizzards 2 weeks ago. Yep. Nobody wants to get out there. Even here when it's just raining, Even if it's warm and it's raining, nobody wants to go out there. So when it rains, I love to go out and ride because the roads are clear. People don't want to go out. People don't want to go to the store. Don't want to do anything. They order pizza in or whatever they do. They order people to deliver stuff for them. So the roads have less people using them. Colin is asking, do I run winter tires? No, I don't. I don't run winter tires because, like I said, we don't have the challenging winter that you guys have where you are up north, like New Jersey and places like that. We just have colder temperatures, but our roads are clear all the time. What's happening this week is an anomaly. We may get snow here once every 5 or 7 years, if that. So no, I'm not going to invest in winter tires. I run the same tires I run all the time. And so do all the riders out here. Nobody buys winter tires down here. You don't need them down here. Our winter is 45 to 65, mostly. And every now and then it gets colder, but it doesn't last. So yeah, no reason to do that. So Gallo Chapin said, oh, you missed the stream. That's okay. You can replay it. We'll record it. He said he's been finding it hard to get motivated to ride in the bitter cold in good old England. Well, what we're talking about as far as bitter cold, there's a guy here, imperceptible, having trouble keeping his hands warm. And he's been looking for gloves, but they're all sold out in the UK and EU and so forth. So because it's this time of year, probably everybody's buying it. So he's going to try a different pair of gloves tomorrow, not specifically for cycling, but he thinks they're warm enough. The biggest thing is to make sure you're covered up. So when you said bitter cold, I'm going to assume below freezing or close to freezing. Make sure you cover your face if it's bitter cold. Like tomorrow, I will probably wear a balaclava for the first time in a long time because it's just going to stay. It's going to be 2 Celsius or so when we start, and it's going to go to 6 or 7 Celsius for a high. So I may wear a balaclava, or I may just pull up my thermal and bring it up because it allows me to do that. But I will be covering my face until it gets above, say, 4 or 5 C, but then that's tolerable. But you just have to have your hands warm, make sure your shoes are covered, get some shoe covers that make all kinds that will keep your feet warm. And of course, a cycling hat warm. I'm wearing wool hats tomorrow that cover my ears. And I've shown that on the video. Those are, they call them the Belgian caps. I've got a copy from Rafa that's really nice and warm and it's breathable. That's another thing. You don't want to be sweating under there. So if you have the right stuff that will keep you warm and allow perspiration to escape, you can ride, within reason. I mean, if it starts getting minus 20 and stuff like that, and you're going to need mittens and other stuff like that. We never go that far. So I don't have any of that in my arsenal. Let's put it that way. Cycle Jockey says, getting lots of cold here in New York. Was minus 16, been riding lots on the road as the winter hit spring strong. Yeah, well, it's probably the same front that's coming down here. I know from here it's going to move up to the northeast. So yeah, minus 16, that's very cold. When it's much below zero, it's not a whole lot of fun to ride because it's hard to stay warm. I have not ridden much below zero. I did one ride where we were in the 20s a long time ago, and I couldn't even last an hour. It was a sunny day. It was just cold. And I was just cold, even though I was wearing all this crap. So yeah, at some point you got to say, yeah, I got to stay indoors, but that doesn't mean you're not motivated. You can get on the trainer and do a workout, So JBOB said, Bernard Hinault start. Nothing like having the roads to yourself. Yeah. I love it when it rains. I don't care what time of year. If it rains, I'm going to ride that day, I head out because the roads are clear. Nobody wants to be out there. There are fewer cars. The dogs are not even out. It's just great. Let's see here. Gallo Chapin said, same problem. Hands go numb on and off throughout the ride. Everything else I can manage to keep warm. I talked about liners before you got here. Try using liners if your gloves will allow you to wear liners. Basically, wool gloves that fit you well and you can slip in to the other gloves. That's what we do. We line our gloves. That makes a big difference. Yeah, -8. Sinuel says -8 wind chill in the northwest of England tonight. Yeah, when you're riding below zero, you've got to wear a balaclava. You got to cover your face and all your head. Basically, that's what I like. That you just put on your glasses to keep you warm, and you may need to wear a balaclava and a wool cap. So you've got to get a little creative, play around with it, and find what works. Because if you're in an area where it's going to stay cold for say a month, but it's going to be clear and fair weather, what do you got to do? You can't do the trainers all the time. You may have to break it up and go out every now and then. That's when you got to experiment and see what works for you. Chi-Town Black Dragon, first time watching live stream. Well, welcome. We have them from time to time. Let's see here. My only issue is my hands, and it's so annoying. That's imperceptible. Yeah, everybody. Some people, their feet, they can't get warm. There's another guy who talked about in some of the videos, he left comments about not being able to get his feet warm. You may want to get creative. Maybe put on some plastic gloves, then slip them in your gloves. You got to get a little creative and see if that works. Because, you know, the plastic doesn't breathe. So maybe that will help. You got to play around, see what works. You'll be able to get there. You got to find out what works for you. JB says he wears 2 layers of gloves. It helps. He said his Achilles heel is his thick outer layer gloves that do not have windproof thumbs. Okay. Yeah, you need things that will block the wind chill. It's the wind chill that continues to pound you as you move on the bike. So you need gloves that block the wind chill. And those gloves that Imperceptible's looking at, the deep winter gloves, I know ASOS makes a glove that, what's his name, Chris Horner was talking about. He said they were so warm that he rarely used them. And I think that would probably work for you. But, you know, it's going to be outside your budget because ASOS is not exactly price friendly. Let's see here. I'm going to just say ASOS cycling gloves. Let me see if I can find them. Because I have gloves that keep me warm in our temperatures. If I had to ride in deeper stuff, I'd probably get more stuff. Maybe get some mittens and stuff like that to cover your hands. Like something like what we call lobster claws to block the wind. You just need something to shield your hands. Go to ASOS.com. They have new arrivals. Oh, let's see here. Let's see if they got gloves. Men gloves. Because I know they make gloves that are very warm. Because Chris Horner said that he had a pair of gloves that he never used because it was just too warm for the weather that he chose to ride in at this point. Cold winter riding. So yeah, $89 US. So they seem to be in your range. I'm not sure what temperature ranges how deep they go. And they have an Ultras. Okay, there is a glove they call Ultras winter gloves. Double layer construction for maximum hand protection during winter's harshest condition. So Imperceptible, you need to check this out. Let's see here. Yeah, Ultras. Yeah, there we go. I'm just looking at it, and that looks like their warmest one. It's 125 US on their site. But it said the product's out of stock. So that's what you're talking about. It's out of stock here too. Yeah, that looks very warm. And it doesn't look very bulky either. Yeah, they're sold out. Yep. And I'm on the US site. The US site is sold out also. So everybody's grabbed it. So you want to put that on your list. I would put that on your list. You got to just try to keep up and see when they restock. Because that's what you want. Since you're having trouble and you already got regular gloves, I'd get the warmest ones they have. And maybe you can find it from another vendor by just searching and see if someone else carries it. You just don't give up, you know. Try the Ultras. I think it's at the same level as the deep winter gloves, but what I noticed about the Ultras is that it looks like it has better dexterity than the deep winter gloves of Rafa. The fingers don't look very bulky. Yeah, that's not a bad price for good quality gloves. So it says ultras is synonymous to the deep, cold winter conditions that drive most people back inside. Those are exactly the conditions these gloves have been tested for, ensuring you'll be able to rack up hours outside with warm, comfortable hands and functional fingers, making me want to get one. Relying on our highly insulating double layer fabric construction known as twin deck, the Ultra gloves grab the torch from our standard winter gloves with a membrane backed air block textile. That's what I was talking about, keeping that wind chill off of you. Then they have a thermal lining and they have neoprene cuffs. This combination delivers high levels of insulation and protection from wind and water, all while remaining breathable enough to prevent sweaty hands. Low in volume, these gloves feature extended. That's what I was talking about. They don't look bulky. So that seems to be the glove you want, if you can find them. Maybe you can look to see if other vendors carry it other than ASOS, because they sent them around. He said he spent the whole day and could not find them. Oh man, it's a bear when you find something you want and it's not available. I mean, they need to make more. Let's see here. Okay, they're available on our side of the world. I don't know. Did you try searching with Google on your end? Because I just did a search with Google on the name, and RNA Cycles in the New York area has it in stock. So yeah, that's one way you can try. Yeah, ASOS itself is sold out, and it looks like it showed up in Wiggle. Let's see if Wiggle has it. You guys, yeah, you know, Wiggle. I think Wiggle bought Chain Reaction. Let's see. Oh yeah, it's out of stock. You're right. Wiggle showed up, but they don't have them. They don't have any size, so it must be real popular. Yeah. Yeah, they're available in the New York area at RNA Cycles. And then let me see, there's somebody here called Jensen. Maybe you can get it from them if I find it. Yeah, it's unavailable. I don't know how long it's been on the market. I haven't shopped them before. This is my first time reading up about them. But it must be pretty good because everybody's sold out. It's a good product. Yeah, you just got to keep trying. Keep it on your list and then see what comes close to it. But yeah, apparently they do their job very well because everybody's bought them out from everybody that had them. Okay, so we're going to wrap up. But notwithstanding the cold hands and so forth, see if, imperceptible, see if you can put on some clear plastic gloves, then put on regular gloves and see how that works. Because I think the plastic might block. But really what it sounds like you need is a glove that is specifically designed to block the wind and keep your hands warm. Because if that wind gets through, yeah, you don't feel very comfortable. Yeah. Okay? So you guys stay out, no matter what, get out there, be safe. We'll get some clips for you tomorrow because for us, it's gonna be cold, period. Down here, like Melanin said, she lives by the water. We're by the Gulf of Mexico. It's always humid here. So 7C doesn't feel like 7C. It might be 0, So we don't do it by that. That's why I step outside, So it's always colder than the temperature reads. That's why you guys saw last week, Jerry had goose pimples on his legs. And he admitted that, man, I really messed up. It's cold. He kept talking about being cold. That's all was on his mind the entire ride. So they shortened their ride and went back. And Paul and I continued. Okay, so guys, stay with it. Keep looking. If I find anything, I will post it on the channel. If I find any warm gloves that's available, since I know you're looking for it, we'll post it on the channel. Okay, all. Take care, Melanin. Take care. Stay warm. Stay safe. Until we chat again.